The Enchanted Forest, a magical adventure of friendship and love. Part 1, The Enchanted Forest. Once upon a time, in a land far away, there was a magical forest where the trees shone like diamonds and the flowers sparkled like gold. In this enchanted forest lived a group of animals who were very good friends. There was a wise old owl, a playful rabbit, a kind deer, a naughty monkey and a curious little fox. One day, as they were playing together, they heard a loud noise coming from deep in the forest. The animals were frightened and didn't know what to do. But the wise old owl spoke up and said, "Fear not, my friends, we will go together and find out what is making that noise." So the animals set off into the forest, and after a while they came across a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a magnificent tree, taller and wider than any tree they had ever seen. The tree was covered with sparkling jewels and seemed to glow with a magical light. As they approached the tree, they saw that there was a small door at the base of the trunk. The wise old owl pushed it open and they found a small room inside. There was a beautiful fairy crying in the room. The animals asked the fairy why she was crying, and she told them that an evil witch had put a spell on her and she could not leave the tree. The animals were determined to help her and asked the fairy how they could break the spell. The fairy told them that they had to find a magic flower that grew deep in the forest. This flower had the power to break any spell. The animals agreed to help and set off into the forest once more, determined to find the flower and break the spell on the fairy. Part 2, In Search of the Flower. The animals faced many obstacles as they traveled through the forest. They had to cross a raging river, climb a steep mountain and make their way through a dense forest. But they were determined to find the magical flower and help the fairy. Finally, after days of traveling, they came to a beautiful meadow. In the center of the meadow stood a single flower, shining with a magical light. The animals knew this was the flower they were looking for and approached it carefully. As they reached out to pluck the flower, they heard a loud roar. They turned to see a ferocious dragon approaching, ready to attack. The animals were scared, but they knew they had to protect the flower and defeat the dragon. The naughty monkey came up with a plan. He climbed a nearby tree and started throwing coconuts at the dragon's head. The dragon was so distracted that the other animals were able to sneak up and snatch the flower. With the magical flower in their hands, the animals hurried back to the tree where the fairy was trapped. They sprinkled the petals of the flower on the fairy and suddenly the spell was broken. The fairy thanked the animals and said she would grant each of them a wish. The rabbit wished for endless carrots, the deer wished for a peaceful home in the forest, the monkey wished for an endless supply of bananas, and the wise old owl wished for the ability to fly faster than any bird. The little fox, who had been very quiet throughout the journey, finally spoke up. "I don't want a wish," she said. "All I want is for us to always be friends and to have more adventures together." The other animals were touched by the fox's words and agreed that they would always be friends and have many more adventures together. Part 3, The Return Home. As they made their way back through the forest, the animals were filled with joy and happiness. They had saved the fairy and had granted their wishes, but more importantly, they had strengthened their friendship. As they neared the edge of the forest, the wise old owl suddenly remembered something. "We forgot one thing," he said. "We never found out what caused that loud noise in the first place." The other animals looked at each other, puzzled. They had been so focused on helping the fairy and finding the magic flower that they had forgotten all about the noise. They decided to go back and investigate. As they approached the clearing, they heard the noise again, louder than ever before. They cautiously made their way closer and saw that the noise was coming from the base of the tree. The animals peered inside the small room and were amazed at what they saw. A family of tiny mice had made their home inside the tree and they were dancing and singing with joy. They had been making the noise all along. The animals were relieved and happy to see the mice so happy. They had saved the fairy and granted their wishes, but they had also helped the mice find a new home. As they left the forest, the animals looked back at the tree, now more beautiful and magical than ever before. They knew that they would always be friends and that they would always have each other, no matter where their adventures took them. And that's the end of our fairy tale. We hope you enjoyed the story of the Enchanted Forest and the animals who live there. Remember, the greatest treasure in life is the love and friendship we share with others. Subscribe to our channel for more fairy tales and leave a comment to let us know what you think.